Handlines are a safe and convenient tool for raising and lowering equipment and tools to crew members working on a pole. Handlines also serve a dual purpose as a safety line for dealing with emergency situations, such as lowering an injured crew member to safety. Handlines come in many forms and with a variety of different features, depending on the procedures and policies that a company follows. In general, handlines have three features in common: a block, a sling, and a continuous length of rope. Now, in most cases, the handline block is a single sheave 3 or 4 inch block. A sheave is simply a roller in the opening in the block that the rope passes over and through. On the top of the block, there's usually a safety hook, or in some cases, simply an eye that allows the block to be attached to the sling. The handline sling is nothing more than a piece of rope, about 3 or 4 feet long, that allows the block to be attached to the pole. Now, in some cases, the sling is separate from the block. More typically, however, the sling is permanently attached to the block, as in this example. Now, for safety reasons, the diameter of the rope used for the sling should always be at least equal to the rope used for the handline. The remainder of the handline consists of a length of rope that is usually 1/2 to 3/8 of an inch in diameter. The length of the rope may vary, but it's typically at least twice the height of the pole you're working on. The rope passes over the sheave through the block, and both ends of the rope are fastened together to form a continuous loop. In this example, one end of the rope has an eye splice, and the other end has a safety hook attached to it. This arrangement makes it easy to separate the handline if needed. In other cases, the ends of the handline may simply be tied together. Now, as we said earlier, there are two reasons for using handlines. One is to raise and lower tools and equipment. The other is for emergency use. We'll concentrate on the use of a handline for raising and lowering equipment in this program. One of your first considerations when using a handline is where to place it on the pole. It needs to be readily available, yet at the same time out of the way when it's not needed. The proper placement will vary with the circumstances and conditions. Here, a lineman is getting ready to dress a new pole which is replacing an older pole right next to it. For his purposes, the crossarm on the old pole is a convenient location for the handline. He secures the handline to the crossarm by wrapping the sling attached to the handline block several times around the crossarm, then fastens it in place with the safety hook. In a different situation, he might tie the sling in place using a square knot. Now, while the lineman is getting ready to begin work, let's go down to the ground and see the job of another member of the crew. While the lineman was climbing the pole, another member of the crew was feeding the handline out. Routinely, he keeps the line from getting tangled and checks the line for cuts, abrasions, or other damage which could cause problems. While the lineman was tying the handline in place, the man on the ground kept the handline out of the lineman's way. Working with a handed effort between the man on the pole and the man on the ground. When working on the ground, you're responsible for getting the material up the pole in a way that makes it easy for the lineman to do his job. This is where your knowledge of knots can handy. This job requires that the crossarm on the old pole be replaced with the pole pin on the new pole. The pole pin is sent up first. The crew member on the ground secures and begins raising it. Notice that he positions himself away from the pole and out of danger if the pole pin should come loose and fall. Notice also that he never takes his eyes off the handline or the lineman. When we were discussing knots, we said that 2 half hitches was an easy knot to untie under light load conditions. Now, this is very important in line work. Notice that the lineman has to hold the pole pin with one hand and untie the knot with the other. The half hitches come off easily. With another knot, the lineman may have needed 2 hands to untie it. That could cause him some problems. Now, the next piece of hardware the lineman will need is the insulator for the pole pin. This crew member has anticipated this need and is using an overhand slip knot to tie the insulator onto the handline. The lineman is just about ready for the insulator now, so the man on the ground begins raising it. The overhand slip knot was a good choice for tying on this insulator. The shape of the insulator makes it a bit awkward to handle. The overhand slip knot makes it easy for the lineman to hold the insulator while he unties the knot. Now you've seen what a hand line consists of. We've discussed some of the things to consider when hanging a hand line. And you've watched a crew use a hand line to raise a pole pin and an insulator. What we want to do now is show you some demonstrations how to use a hand line to raise and lower other types of equipment and some of the finer points about hand line technique. Now you'll recall that earlier we indicated that this hand line has a hook and eye splice to fasten it together into a continuous loop. Now while it's common to use the hand line as a continuous loop, here the hand line is being separated to raise a large block and tackle assembly. This is a good practice in this situation because the block and tackle had to be opened up for this job. With the hand line separated, the crew member on the ground has much better control over the load, making it easy for the lineman to secure the block and tackle onto the pole. Now in some cases it's best to tie individual components and hardware to a hand line. In other cases it's more convenient and efficient to send a number of things up at one time. A good example is insulators and lag bolts. Here a canvas bucket is being used to send up lag bolts and insulators all at once. The lineman can fasten the bucket to the pole or leave it on the hand line until he needs these materials. There are several methods of fastening the bucket to the hand line. The simplest is to hook the handle of the bucket into the safety hook that connects both ends of the hand line together. If a hook isn't part of the hand line, an overhand knot is used. This works equally well. Keep in mind, however, that under load, the knot may have a tendency to slip. Now, earlier we told you that the proper use of a hand line requires a coordinated effort between the man on the pole and the man on the ground. This is very important when dealing with cross arms. Cross arms come in a variety of sizes, ranging from 4 to 12 feet in length. They can weigh 100 or more pounds. Manipulating a cross arm while at the top of a pole and guiding the cross arm from the ground can be a tricky operation. Now, you've already seen one method of tying a cross arm onto a hand line. Here's another. At the bottom end of the cross arm, the hand line is fastened with a half hitch. And to make sure the knot doesn't slip, the bight of the rope is looped over an insulator pin in the arm. At the top of the arm, the hand line is fastened to another insulator pin with a simple loop. This will make it easy for the lineman to unfasten the cross arm at the top of the pole. Notice that a constant tension must be kept on the hand line to keep the loop from slipping. Now, while the loop is tricky for the crew member raising the load, look how easy it is for the lineman to unhook the cross arm from the hand line. Notice also that once the top end of the cross arm is untied, the lineman only has to guide it over his safety belt. The real work of lifting the arm is being done from the ground. With the cross arm in position on the line of attaching a cross arm to a hand line that's very common in line work, it involves the use of a pigging string. Now here we find our man on the ground once more tying a cross arm to a hand line. He attaches the hand line to the bottom of the cross arm using a half hitch as we've seen before. However, at the top of the cross arm, he uses a short piece of 1/4-inch line, which is called a pigging string, to tie the cross arm in place. The pigging string is passed through a pinhole in the cross arm and tied around the hand line with a knot similar to the bow used to tie shoelaces together. This technique is very useful on long cross arms because the lineman simply pulls one end of the string and the cross arm falls across his belt easily. Now, the last area we want to cover before leaving the topic of hand lines is the technique used for raising and lowering objects on the line. The crew member uses both hands on the side of the hand line that is actually holding the load. He pulls the load up hand over hand at the same time. He drapes the side of the hand line that is not holding the load over his arm. This allows him to see both sides of the line and watch for tangles in the rope that could cause problems. It also keeps the hand line out of his way so that he doesn't become entangled in it, possibly causing an accident. Notice also that he constantly watches the load and the lineman so he can anticipate any possible problems that might develop. And when used properly, a hand line is a very efficient and safe method of rigging any line job. Take hand lines and answer the questions at the end of the section. In the next part of this program, we'll look at the use of blocks and tackle.